Hello, everyone. Welcome to CXO Spice. CXO Spice is a platform for thought leaders to share their point of view on innovation and explain how to make it happen in real world. Today's topic is Edge for Good. Our special guest today is Gail Snorson, SVP, Edge Portfolio and Solutions, and Infrastructure Solutions Group at Dell Technologies. Hi, Gail. Welcome to CXO Spice.
Hi, Ellen. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Gail, take us back to the beginning. How old were you when you knew you wanted to get involved in tech?
I still don't know if I want to be involved in tech. It was for me. For me, it was completely accidental. I grew up in Israel, and the army, which everybody does, screened me to be a software developer. And it involved some commitment, and I did not want to commit, and so they said, okay, so you can be a cook or a truck driver. So, okay, maybe software, and that kind of set the course for the last 35 or more years. Yeah, I guess I did want to be in it.
By the way, my favorite trip was Tel Aviv 3 years ago, and my favorite book is Startup Nation. So I can relate to what you just said there, but that's a separate topic. Today, we're going to talk about Edge for Good. You've been the visionary executive leader behind Dell Technologies Edge strategy. So give us a short lesson on what Edge really means to you and how do you see the Edge evolving over the past 2 to 3 years, especially for technology users in general?
Sure, but I will say that the vision and the need to operate at the edge is not mine. It's the Dell leadership, starting from Michael Dell and the entire ELT has realized that, this is an area of us able to add even more value than we are today. I'm the executing arm of all of this, and maybe some of the vision, but it's really something we are passionate across the board at Dell. And maybe to start off, why is this all happening? There is a lot of data created in the world. We're going to talk about some examples today. We have more sensors, they're more affordable. There is a lot of video that we can now use to analyze information and make decisions. In addition, there is technology that's advances. There is machine learning models, and there's cloud that train them. And there is form factors that, hardware form factors that are small and can be out there in the world. And there is software-defined technologies. And in addition to those two things, there's customer requirements. The people need to be more productive, like operational efficiency in manufacturing, or they want customer experience, like in retail, so they want to improve customer experience. Or we're going to talk about, Edge for Good today, some not extreme, but some unique use cases that are, influencing people's lives. So the combination of all of this, together with some initiatives of security that we're going to touch on, have created a situation where a lot of compute is moving away from clouds, away from data centers, all the way to edge locations. To the extent that I think Gartner a year ago said that 75% of the world's data is going to be created outside of a cloud or a data center. So there's an enormous shift of resources towards where the data is created, so people can make real-time decisions. And I think all of this is what constitutes this edge phenomenon or edge market that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I love that edge phenomenal concept here, right? Speaking of that, there are so many organizational use cases for edge technology today, as you described. But the edge has also played an important role in bringing underserved communities equity in access to learning resources. There are about 1.3 billion students affected by this gap. What is Dell doing to close the gap?
This is a great example. So if we talk about edge as a unit of compute that allows you to do things outside of a data center, education is a great example because in many nations people still don't have access to internet. Mm-hmm. And when they don't have access, students don't have access to internet, they also don't have access to the new ways of learning, like cooperative or self-education or self-training. And many kids of today, they go on the internet and they can educate themselves. All you need to do is ask them the question and challenge them. But if you don't have access to information, you don't get any of that. And so, we know that there are thousands and thousands of schools. You talked about 1.3 billion people. That's millions of schools around the world without connectivity or with intermittent connectivity. Not only that, many of them are in conditions of humidity and intermittent power, and lack of skills and IT support. And so what we are doing, we have created an all-in-one solution that leverage some of our technologies, like web computers or servers that can accelerate and communicate through satellite and through broadband if we have it, and through cellular. But what they can do is they can download a lot of educational content and then serve it to schools, even if there is no connectivity. And so all of a sudden, you have a full solution where students get laptops. They get access to content through the content and the educational systems, and they can use it whether they have connectivity or not. And even I remember through COVID times, there were schools in Central America where kids were going to the school, being outside of the school perimeter because school was closed, just to get Wi-Fi so they could do their homework on Dell-provided laptops that they had in their homes. And so what you do in that case, you enable the students to learn, the teachers to teach, the officials to get data, because now you can collect data about usage, about content. And so this is a partnership between Dell and local telecom companies and local educators, and this has been propagating for a while now. Right now, over 10,000 schools globally, with a few prominent cases where we showcase in Mexico, but we also have it in Brazil and in Costa Rica and in India and in other places. And this is taking a constraint, no connectivity, and using edge computing models to actually do good for humanity, which is why we love this case so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's profound, Gil. I actually just returned from a trip in Morocco, and when I was there, I visited some schools. Right, I can really relate to what you just described here. Tell us a little bit more about the challenging environment these schools reside in. Right, you talk about Mexico, Brazil, anywhere else. These schools are 10,000 schools are in. And then how edge becomes an advantage.
Well, this whole project started in Latin America, and in fact, it's a very interesting story because projects start with people. There was a person, like actually, his name is Alicio Hagen. He's one of our Latin America education vertical sales people that was inspired by some self-learning methodologies he's read, and contacted the people who have been propagating them, and then started going from government to government to government, convincing them that this is the right thing to do. Now those schools reside all over Latin America, as I said, in India, in Russia. Now things are changing, but there was a lot there, Dominican Republic, and other countries. And as I said, the challenges are even we talked about humidity and power. Think about power. If you don't have regular power, if you have intermittent power, one of the elements of this solution is that kids can take laptops home, but when they come back, they can charge them in class. And so you think about the physical elements of being at the edge. You're always outside of a controlled environment. You're in real life, where we all live. And so even not having power all day is a problem. You think it's simple, but it's not. You don't get to use a computer if it's not powered on. So all of those challenges combined mean that if we take this whole solution that can be self-sustained, whether it's connected or not, whether you have power or not, and then could still deliver this connected experience to students, you give them access, you level the playing field, right, for them and the rest of the world does.
Yeah, that's so important, right? Obviously, we have taken things for granted here oftentimes, but those people who are in the environment where they don't have access to resources, this edge solution can be a life-saving for them, right? Although education is not the only example of where Dell is using edge technology to help solve a global challenge, it actually looks another edge use case I've came across has been working on is climate impact. So can you share a little bit more about that use case?
Yeah, sure. The previous example talked about compute and an application packaged up. This one extends into higher levels of the stack as well, and I'll explain what I mean.
Mhm.
The whole world of climate change is managed by exchanging credits. For people who consume more and less, and in order to trade credits, you need credibility. You need to have them, be credible, and so that's where measurement, reporting, and verification comes in. One of our groups at Dell came up with Data Confidence Fabric, which is a way to tag information and monitor it from the point it's created and where it was changed and by whom.
Mm.
When you collect data, you know it came from, and you can track it all the way back to the source.
Mhm.
And they decided to apply to climate change. And what they did is they worked with the Chilean government and a few organizations to implement an Internet of Things or IoT solutions in a biodigestion facility, and through putting sensors in the ground, collecting the data. But because they could prove that the data was where it was originated, how it was changed, they showed that not only can you collect the data, but you can also guarantee that the data is authentic. And of course, this goes back to the elements we've discussed before. Now you have a lot of sensors in a field.
Mhm.
You not only need to collect the data, you need to process it. Therefore, you need to take compute and put it closer to the data again. See, it goes back to the same point. And so by putting equipment out there that can collect data in real time and stamp it, validate it, and create the confidence, they were able to showcase the fact that, there is a way to have a credible, measurement and reporting verification system implemented. And so now this idea is getting more traction, and is using all of the same principle of edge computing that we're using. You didn't mention this case, but I got to tell you, there's other cases where we are using edge computing for humanity, for good.
Mhm.
One of more prominent customers is a customer called Mercy Ships. Have you heard about them?
Yes.
It's a charity organization. They actually have floating hospitals that go into poor areas of the world, and they dock and they serve underserved communities. So what is a ship if not an edge computing platform, right? It's in sea, it doesn't have connectivity. It needs to be onshore and offshore. It needs to be sometime connected, sometime not, but it's running a hospital, a full-on hospital. So it's another case where you take edge computing and suddenly you bring all of that ownership with the doctors to communities. And I think the list is very long, and that's partly because edge is where we all live. And so, where people are, they're using this technology, and that's what makes at least my business so exciting.
Wow, those are fascinating use cases. As a matter of fact, the use of all this data to help solve these challenges is exciting and encouraging. But I imagine with that comes risk around the security. So can you share your perspective about security at the edge?
That's actually very true and concerning, because when you ask customers why they're not doing more at the edge, they usually go to security first. Um, if you think about it, things that are outside of a data center, they're not behind lock and key. They're not, in a facility. They're out there. They're on a pole or on the side of a building or on a in a farm, and so people have access to them, so they can touch them, so they can do things to them. And not only are the security breaches at the edge, are the consequences are not just monetary. It could be human life if somebody tampers a water facility. Now we're talking about the bad side of impacting, but people do that too, right? If you rig an oil pipeline. Um, so what we need to do, we need to think really hard about how to protect edge equipment and the entire stack from hardware root of trust. You just got a computer to install it. Is that the one you ordered, or did somebody change it along the way somewhere? when they implemented it in your facility. So we have to think all the way back to hardware root of trust, and then the operating system on it, and the applications that are installed on it, and who is touching it, and who can touch it, and who can't touch it, how you manage it. Security at the edge is something definitely worthy of investing in more and more and more. And we take it very seriously. We actually feel part of our value is solving for those problems at Dell.
Yeah, I spoke to someone the other day. He's a new employee at the company. Dell Computer onboarding process was so robust, right? And he described to me old days they have to go through all sorts of steps and procedures. Now, just a few clicks, they can get them all done. So that verification process is just very impressive. So thank you. And so for those companies considering Edge adoption, where should they start?
There's multiple starting points. But what's going on right now is that we talk about two examples, but a lot of the examples come from the manufacturing world, from the retail world, from power distribution substation. And what happens is a lot of customers are buying solutions on a per use cases. For example, if you're a retailer, you buy a point of sale, and then you buy fraud detection, and then you buy CCTV or video cameras to watch out for people's safety. And then you buy another one for digital labeling and curbside delivery. And this is true for every industry. So the first thing that people have to think about is whether they need a more holistic approach, an architecture, a solution that can drive multiple use cases. So they don't have to buy and procure and secure and maintain and support every one of those solutions separately. That's one. The other side of it is organizational. People need to think about about ownership. A lot of the edge use cases are bought by business owners that solve a specific problem, but there's their IT people that they come to for network and connectivity and security. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of customers today are starting to think about the organizational model, IT, or what we call OT, operational technology. Can they collaborate? Should they collaborate? How do they collaborate? So there's a lot of organizational thinking. What we at Dell are doing is beyond, hardware and solutions. We are on the verge of unveiling a very ambitious goal of managing edge operation to end. And I think when people think about an architecture, a way to think about holistically how they deploy solutions at the edge, and if we all do the job correctly, they would be able to innovate so much faster and solve even more human problems at the edge because it's going to be easier for them. And I guess that's the big news for this year for us.
Yeah, I echo what you said about the IT OT convergence, right? That's what we've been seeing. And thanks for the tips here. Now that we're in 2023, right? Here comes my last question. What is the next big thing for Edge and Dell Technologies this year?
So we want customers to be able to innovate more and extract more value out of their data. And we want to help them overcome the constraints like the ones we talked about: networking, security, lack of IT, scale. Think about, some companies out there that deploy edge compute, for example, a cell tower company. They may need to deploy 1 million cell towers. I mean, those are very large numbers. We came to the conclusion that the problem is around the edge operations, the deployment of equipment automatically without human touch, life cycling that equipment automatically without in-field human touch, and the deployment of applications to those many, many locations, and we call it edge operations. We announced earlier or later last year what we call Project Frontier. Mm-hmm. This year is going to be a big year for us because Project Frontier, which does that automatic deployment, lifecycle management, and application deployment of edge use cases, is going to become a product. And we're going to take it to market, and we're going to work with a lot of the customers that have been advising us of why this is required. So it's a very exciting year for us at Dell because we can take this platform and then create vertical solutions yet again for education, for health, or climate change, for manufacturing, for retail, for others. And and this hopefully this becomes a virtuous cycle of more value, laid on more value. And so we're very excited about this year.
Well, congratulations, Gail. I actually watched your Product Frontier announcement. I was super excited about it, right? You talk about edge operation. That's a dream, right? To remove human interaction from the mix and then to ensure everything goes as planned. And then that's really a dream. So thank you, Gail, for sharing the human impact edge technology has already made and is about to make more. My biggest takeaway from our conversation today is that edge plays an integral role in driving ESG regardless of industry. And number one is the equity, right? We talk about the teachers and students can access world-class content locally and do so whether they have connectivity or not at the time they need information. Number two is about sustainability, right? Your use case about addressing climate change, transitioning to climate action resonated with me, right? The integrated digital MRV, you talk about measurement to reporting to verification, that enables data management and security while it's being monetized. Number three is about the governance and security, right? At the end of the day, utilizing the edge to create a safer physical and digital customer environments is so essential for us to create business value regardless of what we do. So thank you, Dell, for creating technologies that drive human progress. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Stay hungry, stay bold, and stay grateful.